All right, shalom, 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 brothers and sisters. Your brother Kazakia. And earlier we did a presentation on the original African Heritage Study Bible. And something that sticks out of my mind was when I was reading, I was like, this, the person who is the editor of this, his name is Kane Hope Felder. He's elderly gentleman now. I think he's about 75 years old. When he did this about 12 years ago, he's about 63 or so. He did this, and I want to just kind of read something that came out of that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some other books, things that were inspirational to me. And so the Most High allows us to have different steps to get to where we are. And so with regards to that, this particular reference was shared with me by another brother in the walk, another Moray, and so I was like, let me just go ahead and get it, because I never knew that let me put it this way. I came across the African Heritage Study Bible, but I never got it because I didn't like the African Heritage name, because at that particular time in my life when this came out, I was already further along in my walk, so African was something that I wasn't embracing, African anything. So but in his credits, before in the section of, I have the leather copy of it, in the credits on page, let's see, where is it at? Page XVI3. So what is that? 17, 18, 5 and 3 is 8, right? 18. This is what he says in his credits. He says, with heartful thanks to the African Hebrew Israelite community now living in Israel, he has in parentheses Northeast Africa, for the work of their research committee and Hebrew translators under the direction of, he has here, I can't see that there, what is that? Sigan Eliashuf Ben Yehuda. Without their scholarly input and untiring and hospitable assistance of their members of the community for lodging, travel, photography, arrangements, and the scheduling of interviews with the indigenous people still living in the biblical land, it would have been difficult to validate the authenticity of certain historical sites of ancient Palestine and its original people. Special thanks to Dr. Shalik Ben Yehuda, hermeneutic scholar and a dean at the Institute of School of Prophets in Jerusalem. Now, these are people that we know in the community of Dimona, and well, I don't know personally, but I mean we know of them because we know the family that's there, who always knew another ancient Bible site to be studied in the Holy Land. So he gives us credit to the community at Dimona. Now, what I want to say is that a lot of these scholars that embrace the identity, the hard thing for them to do is to reject Christianity. when you say that? Because most people, their faith and their belief is in, what they came up believing. And so for them to come and just to divorce all of that is really, really a hard thing. For some people never would give that up, because it's like saying all of my labor and all my energy I devoted to Christianity, and now it's void. Well, you have to do what the Most High said. He said, a couple of things come to my mind. One is, he said, no man can serve two masters, right? And then he said, choose you today whom you're going to serve, right? So if you know you are Israel, then if we know that the so-called people in the scriptures are Israel, and that they went into captivity because they disobeyed the Most High, then what does that say to us today? If it was disobedience that got us scattered, it's going to take what to get us gathered? Obedience. So that's the reciprocal of disobedience. So you knowing that you are an Israelite is not going to get us gathered back home. The Israelites that were scattered knew they were Israelites, but they were still scattered. So what makes you think because you know you are an Israelite that means that you're going to be gathered? Okay. And what I want to do is I've coined this particular text. This is something that the Most High gave me. It's not mine, but it's something that I consistently use whenever we're dealing with Israel, especially those that are of the Israelite identity movement. This is Deuteronomy 30, and it doesn't change. Deuteronomy 30, verse 1 through 5. I'm going to read. It says, it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee. Okay, all what things? Everybody knows about Deuteronomy 28, knows that we Israel, we look at the signs. It says, these signs shall be upon thy seed these signs shall be upon thy seed, right? Let me see. I don't want to misquote it. It's Deuteronomy 28. It's Deuteronomy 28 and let's see. Deuteronomy 28 and 46, it says, and these shall be upon thee for a sign and a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So the signs that we have identified with in Deuteronomy 28, as well as in Leviticus 26, as well as all the other prophecies of the other prophets, they confirm to us that we are the biblical Israelites, right? Now, the kicker to it is this. Is not knowing, because the Most High did say that that he would cause the remembrance of them to cease. Right? And that you can read in was that Ezekiel? Was that? I want to give it to you so you can have it. That's Deuteronomy. I'm sorry. Deuteronomy 32. He says, I said I would scatter them into the corners, and I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. So that's profound. The Most High said he would scatter us to the corners, and he would make the remembrance of us to cease from among men. So we wouldn't remember who we are, and the nations wouldn't remember, because as time has progressed, another people took on our identity. And so the Christian theology taught them that these are the biblical Israelites. And so now, who are we? Who are African Americans and Negroes? Right? And blacks. Okay? So he said, I would cause them, I would scatter them to the corners, and I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men. All right. But so the Most High said what? Going back to Deuteronomy 30. When all these things have come upon thee, the blessings and the curses which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations where Yah have Elohim have driven thee. Okay. So what are we saying? The curses that are found what? In Deuteronomy 28. And shall return unto Yah by Elohim. See that? So he says, when I shall call them to mind among all the nations. You know what? I never saw it this way before. This phrase here says, and thou shalt call them to mind. What does that mean? That they shall remember that they are Israel. See that? Call them to mind. See, he said, I will cause the remembrance of them to cease from among men. But now I'm going to call them to mind that what? They are the children of Israel. So now we can look at this and we can read it now with the Hebraic mind. It says, it shall come to pass when all these things will come upon thee, the blessings and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind, right? All the nations where Yah, thy Elohim, have driven thee. So what do you call to mind? Calling that you're an Israelite to mind, right? And in conjunction with calling that you're an Israelite to mind is calling back to mind or to memory the covenant that he gave with our fathers that we lost, right? Okay, so and verse 2 says, and shall return unto Yah, and shall obey. See that? Shall obey his voice. Didn't say, you know, the law was nailed to the tree. Didn't say Jesus paid it all. Didn't say, hey, well, we not honor that, or we know the old covenant. That's the old covenant. The old covenant couldn't do nothing, so we honor the new covenant now. Remember now, he says, thou shalt return unto Yah. Return unto Yah. So what does it mean to return? Okay, let's look at this from the Hebraic perspective. We look at this from the Hebraic perspective. It says, and shall return. The word return is the Hebrew word shub. It means to do what? Shub means to turn back. To turn back. Shub. To turn back. It says, with the idea of return to the starting point. That's just clear. I mean, thou shalt return back to the starting point unto Yah, and shall obey. That word obey is the word Shema, which means, Shema means not just simply to hear, but it means to hear and to tell. See, we always hear in Hebrew, Shema means hear, O Israel. But Shema doesn't just simply mean just hear, right? It means hear with the analogy, with the attention to obey and tell others to obey. That's what Shema means. Shema means to hear, to obey, or to listen to, it says to hear intelligently. That's what it says in the definition. To hear intelligently with the implication of attention, right? Then it says obedience, right? It says to tell. That's what Shema means. To listen attentively, to hear intelligently, to understand what the Most High is saying, and to do what? To obey, right? And to do what? Tell other people to obey. That's what Shema means. It don't mean just you hear and you just keep it to yourself. It means you hear it, you meditate on it, you walk it out, right? And then you tell others. That's what Shema means. So going back, so he says, and shall hear, obey, and tell others to obey his voice according to all, right? That's the word cool. Okay? According to all that I command. The command is the word savah. That's the constitution of Yah. That's the word savah means to constitute, to enjoy. So that's the law of Yah, is Yah's constitution. You know, the United States have a constitution, right? They have laws, rules, regulations. You know, it's funny. I hear people all the time that come on my videos and they say, you know, well, you know, we can't keep all law. We break one law, we're guilty of all the laws. So that means that we don't have to keep any of the laws, because if we break one, we're guilty of all of them. So let's just not try to keep any of them. We just can't keep them. It's just like you telling a police officer, when a police officer pulls you over and he asks you, can I see your driver's license registration? You say, I don't have one, officer. I'm a sovereign citizen. He says, well, okay, I have no problem with that. But you're driving a public vehicle that has a vehicle license plate on the back of it that's under the Constitution of this United States government.
Never dispute saying you can't keep all the laws of the land.
Huh?
I said people never use as a defense when you can't keep all of the laws of the land.
Right. People never.
By the Bible.
Right. People never say that when it comes to the Most High's laws. It's just saying, you know, I mean, when it comes to the laws of the land, they never say, oh, we can't keep all laws, so I'm just not gonna keep any of them. So why is it that you feel like when it comes to the Most High, you can say, well, we can't keep all Most High's laws, so I'm not gonna keep none of them? What the Most High is saying is simply is, if you offend in one part, you're guilty of all, meaning that the intent is for you to keep all of them, not for you to just keep the ones that you like, keep them all. That's all that's simply saying. But people take that and twist that to make that to mean that if you offend in one point, you're guilty. Let me just read it right quick, okay?
He wouldn't give you something that was that impossible.
Huh?
He wouldn't have given us laws that were that impossible to keep.
Okay, let's see. And you're right. Let's see. Offend. But it's if we look at it in that way, then we have to understand or overstand that it's not really laws, it's instructions with consequences. So it's like the instruction says, don't put your finger on a hot stove. Well, you put your finger on a hot stove, what's the consequences? You're gonna burn your hand, right? Burn your finger. Okay? So that's the instruction. Yah's instruction is a law. The law means that if you do this, this is going to happen if you do that, right? You keep eating that pork, eventually you're going to have heart disease, high blood pressure, whatever, and you're going to eventually die. Somebody said, well, brother, you know, I've been eating pork all my life. I'm 80 years old. I ain't died yet. So, okay, it's just like a person that consistently runs red lights and he never got stopped by the police. He can say that, I've been running the red lights all my life, never got stopped by the police. You just never got caught. But you keep doing it, sooner or later it's going to catch. Your sins will find you out. That's what it says. Be sure your sins will find you out. Okay, so, and it's interesting that this is not even, this is not even Shaul quotation. This is Yaakov's quotation. The world calls James. Give me a second here. I'm going to do the right thing because so many people read one verse and then they just flip. See. So you got to read it in its entirety. So let's start at verse 1. My brother, have not one faith of our Master Yahshua. I'm going to change this into the Revised Names version. Okay. My brother, have not faith of our honorable Master Yahshua the Messiah with respect of persons. For if there come into your assembly a man with good ring and good apparel, and there come also a poor man in vile raiment, and he have respect to him that weareth the gay clothing, and says unto him, sit thou here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand thou there, or sit there under my footstool. Are you not then partial in yourselves, right? And are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Yah chose the poor of this world, rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom, which he hath promised to them that love him? But you have despised the poor, right? Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Do not the blasphemy that worthy name by which which you are called? If you fulfill the royal law, see that? The royal law, according to scriptures. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, you do well. But if you have respect of persons, right, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. See that? So what is he talking about? Not being a hypocrite. So from that he says, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and offend in one point is guilty of all. Here's the question. That in itself is an oxymoron. Because look what it says. How can you keep the whole law if you offended in one point? Right? You can't keep the whole law if you offended in one point, because that meant that you were short. Let's read again. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. Okay. Now, we can dissect this verse in the Greek and get an overstanding, and then we can go to the next verse and we can get an overstanding, or we can do both. So let's do both. Okay, so let's look at this in the Greek. For whosoever, that's hoti or hotis in Greek. It is agar, hotis, terero. Okay, now I'm going. So that means whosoever shall keep, and that word keep is the word tero, which means to watch, to guard from loss or injury by keeping the eye upon. See, now you get a different understanding now. So that word keep means to guard from loss. which is to prevent escaping from. It says, which implies a fortress or full military line of apparatus. Okay, so in other words, you're sitting there, you are defending the law. So that's what he's saying. Whosoever shall defend the law, defend the what? The complete law, and yet break, or it says yet offend, and that is to trip or to sin or to err in one point, the point is not there. Point is added in italicized, it's not in the Greek text. So you got one, yet offend in one. Okay. He is guilty as incos, liable of all, of any. So what that's saying, if you are supposed to be guarding and protecting the law, and yet you offend in one point, or you offend in one of the laws, you're guilty of the laws. So what's he saying? He's just simply saying, don't be a hypocrite. He's not saying you can't keep the law. He's saying, don't be a hypocrite. By saying, oh, I'm a defender of the law, but this one part of the law, I don't believe we have to worry about that. We're not under that. So when you think like that, he's saying you're guilty, because we are responsible for the whole law, not just for the part that we like or agree with, right? Then here's the kicker. The next verse, for he that said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not commit murder, right? That's what that word is, phanuo. Now, if you don't commit adultery, but yet you kill, then you are become a transgressor of the law. That's self-explanatory. You broke the law. Because there are laws that we are governed by. So when you keep one law and break another, you're guilty. You are a sinner until you atone for your sins. Okay? And how do you atone for your sins? Stop sinning. Willful sin is no willful sin. We did this. We went over a lesson one time talking about there is no sacrifice for willful disobedience. When you sin willfully, I think it might be in this. Is it in the same chapter? Let's see. Let's keep reading. Let's see. But anyway, it talks about if you trample. How does that go? If we sin willfully, there remain no more sacrifice for sin. Right. Okay. So he says the next verse. This is basically outlines what he's saying in verse 10. So speak you and do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. See that? Speak and do. He said, don't be a hypocrite. That's what this is all about. So speak you and do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty, for he shall have judgment without mercy that have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoiceth against judgment. See that? So that's what he's saying. So when we fall short, we're not supposed to cut a person's head off because they transgressed the law. We're supposed to undergird that person, lift that person up out of that place, and have mercy. That's because in the law, see, that's the thing. People that are indoctrinated by the New Testament of grace don't understand, and you can get the lesson I did on it, that there is grace in the law. When you understand that there is grace in the law, then you understand that grace did not replace the law. It was a part of the law. It is a part of the law.
What is so hard in the law that can't be kept? Nobody never identifies what it is.
Well, what is so hard is, it's just as simple. They don't want to obey.
Obey the Sabbath,
They don't want to obey.
dietary laws.
Right. They don't want to obey.
That's not nothing that you can't do.
I just don't want to.
You choose to not do.
Right. And they use it as an excuse to say, well, we're not under the law, because they don't want to be in compliance with the law. So,
It's a taskmaster.
the law is a
What do
taskmaster.
you mean by taskmaster? It sounds like a slave with a whip, slave master with a whip.
Right. So that's notice how my phone rings and stuff when we okay, I don't even know where it is, but it stopped ringing. It sounds close, don't it? Oh, it's in the bedroom. Okay, anyway. So let's get back. So go back to how do we get over here to James because of the law. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 30. Okay, so verse 2 says, Thou shalt return unto Yah thy Elohim, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, you and your children with all your heart, with all your soul, right? That then Yah, let's put this back into the revised names, that then Yahweh, your Elohim, will turn your captivity. See that? Notice that there is something that's required from us. He says, if we shall obey his voice and our children with all our heart and with all our soul, that then after we shall return to Yah to obey him, then it says he will turn and turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee and will return. See, that right there put the plug in some people thinking that we need to go home. It says here that he will, he says, and have compassion upon thee and will return. See that? Now let's look in the King James, because somebody say, well, brother, that's a trick Bible. It's said in the King James. Okay, let's go back to the King James. Verse 3 again, it says, that then Yahweh, your Elohim, will turn, Yah, so it says Yah will turn, okay, thy captivity and have compassion upon thee and will return and gather thee from all the nations where Yah, thy Elohim, have scattered thee. See that? So anybody have any doubts about that, about when we are to go home, there's it right there. When we obey his voice according to all that he commanded this day, and then it says, excuse me, dry, that Yah will turn thy captivity and have compassion and will return. So he will return. See, because he departed from us. So now he's going to return to us. And when he returns to us, he said, he and gather thee from all the nations where Yah have scattered thee, right? And if any of thine be driven into the outmost parts of heaven, from there will Yah thy Elohim gather thee, and from there will he fetch thee. And Yah thy Elohim will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. I like this verse here. It says, Yah, thy Elohim, will circumcise thine heart and the heart of thy seed to love Yah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. Now, here's something I just saw here, and we read this all the time, but that's why there's so much revelation in Yah's word. You read it once and you miss it, you read it again, you get something else. This verse here says, Yah will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your seed to love Yah with all your heart and with all your soul. Okay? Yah will circumcise your heart and the heart of your seed. See that? He's going to circumcise our heart present, right? And then he's going to circumcise the heart of our seed. See? So we can't circumcise our seed's heart. Yah has to do that. That's what I'm pointing out in this verse. He will circumcise the heart of our seed to love Yah with thy Elohim with all their heart and with all their soul, that thou mayest live. Okay? And this verse here is a verse that nobody wants to hear. But there's coming a day of repayment. Yah said, and Yah thy Elohim will put all these curses on your enemies and on them that hate you and persecute you. So there's coming a day of reparation. There's coming 40 acres and a mule is going to be like a drop in the hat. He's going to put all these curses upon your enemies and on them that hate you and that which persecute you. That's why I don't believe that the nations are going to be destroyed when the Messiah returns. They're going to be left here so that they can get their punishment for what they did to you for the 2,000 years. They got 1,000 years to repay what they did to you for 2,000 years. They're going to serve us and our seed for the 1,000 years. That's the reparations. Verse 8 says, and thou shalt return and obey the voice of Yah and do all the commandments. Not say that they're nailed to the tree, but do all the commandments which I command you this day. See that? And Yah, thy Elohim, will make you plenteous in every work of your hands, in the fruit of your body, in the fruit of your cattle, in the fruit of your land, for good. And Yah will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers, if thou shalt hearken to the voice of Yah, your Elohim, to keep his commandments, his statutes, which are written in the book of the law. If thou shalt turn to Yah, thy Elohim, with all thy heart and with all thy soul. See that? So that's the antidote. Not knowing that you're an Israelite, but obeying, walking in obedience. As long as you continue with the stiff-necked, stubborn, disobedient, wicked Israelite mentality, we don't have to obey the covenant. We're on a new covenant. I wanted to say something. Your tail is going to stay in captivity. I was going to say your ass going to stay in captivity, but I said it, didn't I? Well, it's true, though. You keep walking in disobedience and saying, oh, I keep the covenant. We're in the new covenant. Your ass going to stay in captivity. Just that simple. All right. Now, let's move on. Let me show you something in the New Testament. The Most High is looking for an obedient Israelite. And like I heard my mama say when I was a kid, ass is in the Bible. It's in the Bible. Not the way she said it, though. Get your ass down on there. One thing I don't have to worry about my mother, because she ain't gonna watch my videos. She's not there yet. So, and my brothers and sisters, that guarantee they won't be watching this either. If they do, I'll be surprised. If they do, if y'all happen to see this part here, hey, I love y'all. I'm glad y'all decided to watch your brother. But anyway, let's go to Revelation. Okay. Oh, how about this one here? Let's just read this right quick. Shaul, we should voice Shaul right here. 1 Corinthians 7:19 says what? I'm going to come back to that. Okay, so it says, now, this is what Shaul was speaking against circumcision, but watch what he says here. But as Yahweh, this is verse 17, 1 Corinthians 7:17. But as Yahweh has distributed to every man, as Yahshua had called everyone, so let him walk. And so ordained I in all assemblies. Is any man among you being circumcised? Let him not be uncircumcised. Is any among you uncircumcised? Let him not be circumcised. So we know he's wrong about that. Anything that goes against Torah is wrong. I don't care if it's Paul, I don't care if it's Shaul or whoever. Torah is right. All men be liar, let Yah be true. That's the bottom line. All right, circumcision is nothing. He says uncircumcision is nothing but keeping of the law, but keeping of the commandments of Yah. So it's kind of a contradiction when you say, because if he says, but keeping of the commandments of Yah, well, isn't circumcision a commandment? Yeah. That's what he told Abraham, to circumcise your seed and those that are bought with money, etc. Those that are born in your home, right? Be one law for all. So if you're going to be a spiritual Israelite, you got to get your penis snipped. It's just that simple. There's no way around it. All right. Now, somebody said, brother, you're being so graphic. Trust me, you've heard worse. Let every man abide in the same call where he was called. All right. Now let's go back. What I wanted to do was, I was looking at this commandments. Okay. It kind of got sidebar when I saw that Shaul couldn't let this slide by. But I wanted to go to Revelations, where I want to go to. And in Revelation, okay, how about this? Read this here. 1 John 2:3. Hereby we know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith I know him, this is 1 John 2:4, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. 1 John 3:22 said, whosoever we ask, we receive of him, because we do what? We keep his commandments and do those things which are pleasing in his sight. This is 1 John 3:24. And he that keepeth his commandments dwelleth in him, and he in him. And hereby we know that he abideth in us by his Spirit which he hath given to us. So he that keepeth his commandments dwells in him, and he in him. So if you break his commandments, then he don't dwell in you, and you don't dwell in him. This 1 John 5:2. By this we know that we love the children of Yah, when we love Yah and keep his commandments, not break them. All right, this is 1 John 5:3. For this is the love of Yah, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous. So what I was saying, his commandments is not bondage. This is 2 John 1:6. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment that as you have heard from the beginning, you should walk in it. Right? That we keep his commandments. Right? And let's see. Revelation. Satan, the enemy, is coming after those who are keeping the commandments, not after those who are breaking the commandments. He don't care about them. He already got them. He coming after the ones that's trying to keep the commandments. He says, this is Revelation 12:17. The dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments.
The ones that have the testimony.
Huh?
They are the ones that have the testimony.
And have the testimony of Yahshua the Messiah. If you don't keep the commandments, you don't have Yahshua's testimony. How can you have Yahshua's testimony? Huh?
That's it.
If you are not keeping Yah's commandments. I didn't write this. I wish it wasn't there sometime. But hey, I got to obey just like you. If I become disobedient, y'all gonna spank my behind too. Okay? We all are responsible. We all are liable to obeying Yah's law. Okay? This is 14 and 12. Here is patience of the saints. You say you're a saint, right? I'm a saint. Hey! They do that little... We used to do that in Koji. I forget what they call that. Shooting an arrow. You ever see people do that? Hey! Do like that. I think that's a universal thing they do in church. It's funny how everybody got them same movements though. So here's patience of the saints. Here are they that say the commandments is nailed to the tree, right? Isn't that what it says? Here's the patience of the saints. Here are they that say the commandments is nailed to the tree and Jesus paid it all. Is that what it said? They don't say that? Well, that's what you told me it said. Every time you pop into my video and you throw a comment out there, you tell me that passage doesn't exist. That passage says that they that say the law is nailed to the tree, that just believe in Jesus. Right? So what it said, here's patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of Yah and the faith of Yahshua. Keep the commandments, not break them. And if that's not enough for you, Revelation 22. And I believe this is the last chapter. This is the last chapter. It's the last book. And it's the last chapter in the book. He says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have a right to the tree of life and may enter in through the gates into the city. Right. The race is not given to the swift or to the strong, right? But to them to do what? Endure to the end. Blessed are they that do his commandments. And just in case you say, well, brother, you didn't exegete that word commandment. Okay. The commandment is not talking about the 10 commandments. Okay. The word for commandment is the word intole. In the Greek, intoleia means the injunction. That is an authoritative prescription. Authoritative prescription. What's a prescription? You go to the doctor and you got a condition and you want to get well. The doctor does what?
Your prescription solution to the problem or your ailment.
There you go.
Medicine.
So the commandment is Yah's
Your formula to get well.
prescription. What's the prescription to sin? Obedience. Obeying what he says to do. Okay? I'm going to give you something because my mind went somewhere with that. But that right there in itself tells you that the commandments is a prescription. Okay? Now, I'm going to take you to here. This is Shimon Kefa. Second Peter, as you know him, or Kefa, or Cephas in the transliteration of Kefa, right? Peter comes from the word rock. It's a substitution of his name, which is they call Petros, which was a Greek name. I think also wasn't Petros a Greek deity? Okay. He says, let's go here and read this. Says, let's go up and read down. Okay. Shimon Kefa. And once again, that word Kefa is Petros, which means rock. Okay. A servant and an apostle of Yahshua the Messiah, to them that have obtained like precious faith with us through the righteousness of Yahweh and our Savior Yahshua the Messiah. Favor and peace be multiplied unto you through the knowledge of Yahweh and of Yahshua the Master, right? According as his divine power hath given unto us all things that pertain unto life and reverence, through the knowledge of him that hath called us into glory and to virtue, whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these you might be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. But besides this, giving all diligence, add to your faith virtue, and the virtue knowledge, and the knowledge temperance, and the temperance patience, and the patience reverence, and the reverence brotherly kindness, and to brotherly kindness charity. Bam! What is he telling you to do? To all that he's saying, obey the law. Because all these things that he's spilling out are things that are spilled out in the law. For he says, if these things be in you, verse 8, and abound, they make you that you shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of our Master Yahshua the Messiah. See that? So if these things be in you. So he's basically telling you what the power is. Because the third verse, he said, according to his divine power have he given unto us all things. What is that power? All these things that he's saying here, that's in us. Right? Meaning in us, meaning in our character. If it's in our character, then it becomes our personality. So all these things he's saying, these things, he says, faith, virtue, knowledge, temperance, patience, reverence, brotherly kindness, and charity or love. He says those things, that's what you call the fruit of the Spirit, what Shaul talks about. He wraps it up in a different manner, but it's the same thing. For if these things be in you and abound, they make you that you shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of the Master Yahshua. So he's saying, in other words, what Shaul was saying, Shimon was saying, if these things are not in you, then you don't have the knowledge of Yahshua the Messiah. Hey, you can tell all you want. You can shout and jake and roll your eyes and back of your head and all of that. Well, if these things are not in you, right? Let's name them out again. Faith. Faith and obedience is the same thing. I know you've never heard that before, but faith and obedience is the same thing. Faith, right? Obedience, which does what? It produces virtuality, a virtuousness. What is virtuousness, right? All right, you can look it up. Knowledge. Obedience produces virtue, which produces knowledge, and knowledge, which produces self-control or temperance. And self-control produces patience. And patience produces what? The fear of Yah, which is reverence. See, that's the problem. Israelites don't have the reverence of Yah. Anytime you say we're not on his law, we don't have to obey his law, you don't have the reverence of Yah. You got a religion. But the reverence, he says, and to your reverence for Yah, loving reverence or love for your brothers or sisters, he says brotherly kindness is talking about having a reverence and a respect for your brothers and sisters. He used the word brotherly, but brotherly is interchangeable between genders, okay? And then to your brotherly kindness, love. The word there says charity. I think charity is a Greek deity too. He gave us all these Greek deities in this translation. Verse 8 says, for if these things be in you and bound, they make that you shall neither be barren nor unfruitful in the knowledge of Yahshua the Messiah. Then verse 9, just in case you say, brother, you making stuff up. He says, he that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see far off, and hath forgotten that he was purged from his old sins. Is that deep or what? Look at verse 10. This is the word we're going. Wherefore, rather, brethren, give all diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, what things? The things we just talked about. He said, what? You shall never fall. Other words, that's the Most High's prescription. He said, you don't want to sin, follow the prescription and you won't. It's possible that we can live a life and not sin. Right? The Most High makes a way of escape, but sometimes we don't take the way of escape. we want to ravel right in that transgression. Huh? Yeah. I mean, he makes a way of escape. You say, well, you know. Huh? One more time. I can ask. I can ask Yah for forgiveness. He'll forgive me. Let me just taste it one more time. What did
keep evil present, and you would do good. Keep evil present.
Something came to my mind. Where is it at? We talked about they enjoyed the pleasures of sin for a season. Oh yeah, Hebrews 11. Yes, Hebrews 11. There it is. But by faith, Moshe, when he was come to years and refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yah than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. See that? So, we were coming up as a boy, I lived a miserable life of sin. You ever hear him say that? I lived a miserable life of sin. Sin is not miserable. Sin is pleasurable. Don't you forget it. Don't get it twisted. That's why so many people fall. Because they think, oh, I'm saved now. I'm not going to be tempted by these things no more. Okay, what did the Most High say about that? Let's see. Let's go to James. James 4. Where he said that a man's is enticed by his own lust. James 1 and 4. That's 14. That's it. Let's read verse 12. James 1 and 12 says, "Blessed is the man that endureth temptation. For when he is tried or tested, he shall receive the crown of life which Yah hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted," right? And that's that word parazo, which means he is tested, endeavored, scrutinized, enticed, and disciplined. When a man is tempted, I am tempted of Yah. For Yah cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. See that? Every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust, enticed. So that's why amongst Hebrews, you know, we can't be so critical to judge people, because we could be the next one to fall. I mean, I know you upset because, you know, your favorite moray is losing his ratings to another moray who has a channel. He got more subscribers, so you wanna derate his channel. So you wanna, if he's overtaken in a fault, you gonna pull him down so you can take on his subscribers. This ain't no race and competition to see who can get the most subscribers. Okay. Something came to my mind. What is that? If a brother is overtaken in a fault, or a sister, right? Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. See that? Don't get out there and broadcast him and try to destroy him, right? But restore them. Now, somebody said, well, brother, you didn't do that with Omar.
And to the brother, he did reach out and say he didn't get any response. That's what he said.
Huh?
The other brother, he did say he reached out to them, but didn't get a response. That's what he said.
Yeah. But, okay, here, I'll keep your finger on James. Let's finish James out first, then I'll go here. Okay. Then when lust has conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. See that? So that's the thing. Now, you restore a person if a person is overtaken in a fault. Now, if a person is teaching doctrine, it is our responsibility to rebuke that. And I think here is this is talking about them that sin rebuke before all, that others may also fear. Okay. Here we go here. Okay, this is applicable to what you were just talking about. It says, Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture says, "Thou shalt not muzzle the ox, tread out the corn," and the labor is worthy of the hire of his reward. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. So the question is, where are the witnesses? And that particular situation, though, what you're talking about is old stuff. I don't know stuff happened to me. I've done stuff talking about, what was it, 2015 or something? That's what, 4 years ago? I mean, we can't just go and just start digging up underneath the carpet on people. You know, I mean, everybody that was in this walk wasn't walking where they're walking now. We had to graduate and grow. I made some mistakes in this walk. Okay, so when you have that experience where you have made mistakes, you learn to have compassion over people because you know where you came from, right? If a person is teaching a doctrine that is false and they are misleading people, that's a different story. He says, against an elder receive not an accusation. Okay, what is the accusation? A complaint. A charge, a complaint or a criminal charge where a person is breaking the law, right? So, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. So if this person is teaching against the law, right? That's what this is basically talking about. That word is kategoria, which means a complaint or a criminal charge, right? So if this person is teaching against the law, he says, but before 2 or 3 witnesses. So 2 or 3 witnesses, that's the protocol. And then he says, them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. Right? Where do you get that from? You got that from the law. Watch this. There's so many verses there that's talking about fearing Yah, but this one in particular I was thinking about. Is that what I'm looking for? Here it is, yep. Deuteronomy 17:4. It says, if there be found, this is 17, this time verse 1, Deuteronomy 17:1, thou shalt not sacrifice unto Yah any bullock or sheep wherein is blemish or any evil favoredness, for that is an abomination unto Yah, your Elohim. What's the evil favoredness? What is that? Evil favoredness is, it says here, word or matter, a bad word. It's the bar Ra, a bad word. It says, thou shalt not sacrifice unto Yah any bullock or sheep wherein is blemish, or any bad word, for that is an abomination unto Yah Elohim. So evil favoredness is a bad word. If there be found among you any within thy gates which Yah have given thee, a man or woman that have wrought wickedness in the sight of Yah, and Yah in transgressing his covenant. There it is. That's that bad word. That's that bad word. We're not under the law. It's a bad word. Send me an email. AskMalachi@gmail.com. Let me read it again, verse 2. If there be found among you with any of the gates which Yah have given thee, a man or woman that have wrought wickedness, and that word wrought is make, and wickedness is ra, evil, that have wrought evil, that have made evil in the sight of Yah, thy Elohim, in transgressing his covenant. So how do you transgress the covenant? By telling people you don't have to obey it. And have gone and served other gods, the Lord Jesus. Let that sink in for a minute. I know you hate me when I talk like that, because you got an addiction to Jesus. And Jesus is another God. He really is, when you really think about it. He's another God. People got songs about that. Jesus is the God I serve. Because Jesus is the one that nailed the law to the tree. He says, and have gone and served other deities and worship them, either the sun. Who's the sun? Egyptians call him Ra. Who's the sun in Christendom? Jesus. That's why everything wrapped around Jesus is based around the sun. And so they should go to worship the sun, the moon. Who was that? Allah. Islam. Muhammad, the Mahdi, as they call him. So you go to worship the sun, Jesus, go to worship the moon, Allah, or any of the host of heaven, which I have not commanded thee. That goes that star too. My Hebrew brothers that want to hold on to that star. Somebody said, brother, you Dallas Cowboys fan, you got a star. It ain't the same star. That's a whole nother lesson. We'll talk about it. Somebody said, well, it represents that. All right. Be whatever you think it is, okay? It don't represent that, okay? I don't use that in significance to the Most High and to the covenant. That's a whole different thing. It's like saying, we was talking about the other week, but is it a sin to have a picture up in the house? You're not bowing down to that thing and worshiping that thing, no. Okay? You're not worshiping the dollar bill you got in your pocket, are you? It is made out of wood. All right, so let me see. Or any of the hosts of heaven, which I have not commanded. Here's the kicker here, verse 4. And behold, it be told thee that thou hast heard of it, and inquired diligently and behold, it is true. See that? You can't just go through this thing and just hear somebody say something and then all of a sudden now it's true and now you're going to put them on the blast. But it's got to be true. And the thing certain that such abomination is wrought in Israel. Then shalt thou bring forth that man or that woman which have committed that wicked thing unto thy gates, even that man or that woman, and shall stone them with stones till they die. For at the mouth of two witnesses or three witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of one witness he shall not be put to death. And look what he says in verse 7. The hands of the witness shall be the first upon him to put him to death. And afterwards the hands of all the people, so thou shalt put the evil away from among you. See that? So if you are the witness, you're the one that's supposed to throw the first stone. That's what Yahshua told the multitudes when they brought the woman to him. It was like, hey, we caught this woman in the act of adultery. He said, well, where's the man? Is that what he said, or am I adding that? So, you know, the thing is that a lot of people think they live in a glass house. But anyway, I'm through for now. I'm going to share another video. I'm going to post another video. I'm going to close out here because that particular sharing went a whole different direction. I started out on one thought process and ended up somewhere else. So I'm going to end it there. So until next time, may the blessing of the Most High Yah be with you and family. Shalom, shalom, shalom.